In an unexpected encounter, I discovered a shocking secret about the wolf pack. This secret not only changed my life but also triggered a series of unpredictable events. This story is full of mystery and exploration, making it impossible to stop reading. Chapter 24, Alphys and Mate's Mom, when are they going to be here? I heard Teddy ask Anne. We were all standing in the clearing near the pack house where I first met majority of the pack so many months back. It was miles of empty space that was surrounded by the forest, and we were currently awaiting the arrival of the Alphys and their unmated pack members. It honestly felt as if we were hosting some kind of matchmaking convention. Thane and I stood front and center with his family to my left and Lucas, Bo and their mates to Ben's right. All the unmated wolves from our pack stood scattered behind us as we all waited. Before I heard the rustling of the leaves in the forest in front of us or the howling of wolves, I felt an hand on my waist pull me tighter against him, and he angled his body in a way that he was almost shielding me. The anxiousness that everyone held was almost palpable as the rushing of wind and the sound of the leaves crunching stopped in time stood still for a brief minute as the approaching wolves got changed in the forest. The first person to exit the dark forest was a middle-aged man with dark brown hair. He had a pleased smile on his face as he walked up to Thane, and I and his pack members all exited the forest. Thane had told me that there were 4 other packs spread around the country, so this was just the first of 3 Alphys to arrive. According to Thane, there used to be many more packs, but due to the expanding human population into forest areas and the number of rogues, the wolf packs died out. Much like the pack that Caroline originated from, Alpha Pete. Thane sent a friendly smile to the man and shook his hand. Welcome to the Blood Moon pack. This is my mate Emery. He introduced me. And Emery, this is Alpha Pete of the Brave Pop. It's nice to see you again, boy. And it is nice to meet you, Luna Emery. He pulled me into a hug but released me as Thane let out a loud growl. I don't want her, boy. Put your canines away. He laughed as he looked back at me. She is basically like a son to me, so I'm happy he found you, Luna. I laughed at this. It's nice to meet you to Alpha Pete, and I hope you enjoy your time at our pack. If you and your pack need anything, then please feel free to inform me. Also, you can call me Emery. Well, Emery, I will make sure of it once your mate doesn't behead me. He chuckled as he moved on to Carson, who gave each other a slap on the back like old friends. Because they were. Apparently, Carson and Pete fought off a pack of rogues that threatened to take over both their territories back in the day. And ever since they were best friends, therefore Thane grew up with Pete as an uncle. As soon as Alpha Pete and his entourage moved away, another man appeared out of the forest with his pack behind him. He looked about 25 with dark skin, one hazily and the other was a grey cut. He had short curly hair and looked mysterious. I instantly knew he was Alpha Owen of the Whisperbane pack. Alpha Thane. He gave a curt nod and held his hand out to Thane. Alpha Owen. Hope your journey was without bloodshed. Thane said, because Owen travelled the furthest and through badlands that were infested with rogues. And this is my Luna. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's a pleasure to meet you, Alpha Owen, but you can call me Emery. Welcome to the Blood Moon pack, and if you and your pack need anything at all, just let me know. I gave him a smile to help ease the tension that he emanated because of his mysterious aura. He shook my hand and nodded. It's nice to meet you, Luna Emery. He looked back at Thane. And my journey was nothing short of a few rogues that my pack cowed and handle. He gave us both a smack. Well, make yourself and your pack at home. Thane welcomed. However, before Owen walked away, he gave me a curious glance and sniffed the air. You haven't marked her, he observed. Then his grip on me tightened to a point that I felt a shot of pain, but he released me as soon as I whimpered and gave me a look of guilt. She's human, as you know, so I wanted her to be comfortable in the pack before we rushed into things. Thane muttered without going into detail about our wedding. Oh, of course, Alpha Thane. He stepped a bit closer to us, and Thane instantly growled in defense and stepped in front of me, and Owen immediately raised his arms in surrender. I mean no harm to you or your Luna. He stopped and looked at me deeply before turning back to Thane, who still stood between us. But I do want to warn you that I have heard talk of Alpha wanting a Luna. He switched his eyes back to focus on me from over Thane's shoulder. specifically the mate of an alpha, and by looks of it, your mate is the perfect candidate. Thane growled at that. He wouldn't get his paws anywhere near her. But thank you for your concern. I would not put my pack in danger if a war breaks out. Owen quickly stated. And you wouldn't have to, Thane assured him. Owen nodded in affirmation and moved on to greet Carson and Pete. Thane, what if? I started, but he cut me off by pulling me back to his side. Nothing's going to happen, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. He tried to assure me, but stiffened again as a new pack emerged, but he relaxed at the sight of the young man with red hair. He was around 20 and looked really buff. I instantly knew who he was from the nest description. As he neared us, I stuck my hand out in greeting. Alpha Ben of Desert Fur's pack. Welcome to the Blood Moon pack. It's nice to meet you. Enthusiasm. I'm the Luna, but you can just call me Emery. I welcomed him and introduced myself. Ben was the only other alpha that Thane had a friendship with besides Pete. Since Ben and Thane were of similar age, they both helped each other out during rogue attacks and other wolf-related issues. To my agent extraordinaire, Mahian Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. He gave me a big smile, like we were old friends. It's nice to meet you too. Thane over here cowled and shut up about you when he kidnapped you. We both laughed and escal. At least someone else understands that it was technically a kidnapping. It's good to see you, to Ben. Thane growled through clenched teeth. And it was kidnapping. Whatever you say, Thane. Ben shrugged and Thane playfully but forcefully shoved him. Go help your pack find their mates, would you? Thane rolled his eyes, but Teddy was happy Ben was here. Oh, and if you and your pack need anything, we'll be sure to get you. Thank you, Emery. Ben finished for me and left to greet Lucas and Bo. Now just for our highly awaited guest to appear. I grumbled to Thane, who never let me go once since we stepped out of the pack house that morning. As if on command, a young man appeared before us, but he had pitch black hair instead of the pale blonde that Thane had informed me of to recognize Aiden. Thane let out a harsh growl and once again shoved me behind him. But this time completely, and Lucas and Bo both did the same with their mates while coming closer to Thane to form a front of protection. From what I could see behind Thane's arm, the guy stopped where he was several feet before us and other wolves appeared behind him. My name is Rick, the beta of Oak's pack. My alpha. I then sent the unmated wolves and myself he was able to travel at the time. I felt a sudden relief of the man's words, but it was shortly lived as he went. However, he should be here by nightfall. You know the rules, pup. An alpha must accompany his pack on another wolf's territory. Lucas shouted with disgust at him. No disrespect, Beta, but your alpha or Luna can allow us to stay if they see fit. Rick smirked. Let them stay. I whispered to Thane, who turned slightly to face me in confusion. They're here for a reason, and if they do anything stupid, the pack can handle them. Plus they wouldn't, because I'm sure a few of them are mates with members of our pack. Thane just nodded at what I said and turned back to the young Beta. You're welcome to the Blood Moon pack's territory, but as the second in command of your pack, Beta Rick are hereby responsible for every member of your pack and all their actions. Yes, of course, Alpha. Rick gave a curt nod and then looked over at me. Luna, welcome to our pack. If you and your pack need anything, please let me know. I offered my services since they are still guests on our land, even if we were anxious of their presence. We shall. Rick gave me a creepy smile that had my blood crawling, but they maintained his position in front of me. Stop looking at my mate, and tell your alpha to meet me as soon as he enters my territory. Thane growled out, and Rick only nodded before moving along to join the party of unmated wolves behind us. Keep an eye on him and have extra wolves patrolling the territory. I want to know his every move and exactly when his alpha shows up. Thane said to Lucas, who nodded, and got a guard to tail Rick. I wrapped my arms around his body, spun him around to face me and pulled him into a hug. Maybe he wouldn't show up. He placed a kiss on my forehead. He will. Trust me. I'm sure HES just plotting his sinister plan and waiting for our guards to drop. Well, he wouldn't succeed in whatever he has planned. I know it. So let's just go enjoy the festivities of horny wolves. He laughed at my last comment and pulled me towards all the wolves who already found their mates, with the exception of about 5. Only 2 persons from our pack didn't find their mate. That includes Tate, But most our wolves decided to stay in our pack with their newly acquired mates, and I was happy that we were expanding. After we meet with a few pack members, Thane, the other alphas and Rick were all in a discussion about a new rogue group that were close to Ben's territory. It was quite boring since I knew nothing about fight techniques except for the few human moves that I learnt during training. Thane had his arms securely and protectively around my waist as he stood engaged in conversation as I tried to slip away and find Tate. When I moved away from him, though, he immediately turned his attention to me with a fierce look of "Do not leave my side." But I rolled my eyes at him and said, "I'm going to find Tate. Don't worry, you'll be fine since everyone is here." I was pretty sure Aiden was going to turn up until tomorrow anyhow. "Stay close and don't go anywhere without anyone from the pack." Thane directed me, and I only nodded because I knew Aiden was a threat. I walked over to Bailey, who told me she saw Tate going back to the pack house. I knew the Nest sister must be crushed about not finding her mate, and I wanted to ensure that she was okay. I glanced back at Thane and saw he was deep in conversation, and I didn't want to drag anyone else behind me, so I quickly walked back the way we came from towards the pack house, which was far. Within no time I was walking up the driveway towards the front door of the pack house without a problem because I knew I wasn't in any danger. Before I could reach the door, however, I heard what sounded like a child's crying ringing out from the forest to my left, towards the pathway that led to Thane and his house. Without another thought, I dashed across into the forest to investigate if a young child from our pack got lost while playing. I walked along the pathway since the forest beyond that was unfamiliar territory, but as I looked without finding anything, another shrill of a child's cry rang out deeper into the forest and away from the pathway. I shuffled in nervousness about what decision to make before I decided to rush through the forest and follow the sound of the child while trying to remember my way in. I could have found someone to help me, but the child could get lost further, or he or she might be hurt and alone. I had to hurry through the trees before the crying stopped and I lost the child. The crying continued on as I rushed through all the greenery and tree trunks in search of the child, but the further I ran, the further the child's crying moved, as if I was searching for the end of the rainbow. I was about a good 10 minutes into searching when the sound stopped completely and the quietness of the forest wrung my ears with its deafening silence. I came to an abrupt halt and waited for a sound or any sign of presence around me beyond the trees, but I came up empty-handed. Just as I was about to turn back around to get help, I heard the trees bristle to my right, but I wasn't fast enough to see what it was. I turned back to where I came from, but something grey flashed before me and encircled me behind some trees, and I spun around until I couldn't tell what it was with me in the forest or which direction I came from. I searched around me trying to figure out if it was indeed a wolf that encircled me, but it must have ran off because there was nothing within eyesight. A chill ran up my spine when I realized that I was lost and it may be a rogue that crossed my path, since someone from the pack would have approached me. The sun started to set quickly since the alphas arrived in the late evening, but with darkness approaching and me being lost, I hoped Thane realized I was missing and find me fast. As I contemplated which direction to head in, I heard the bristle of some leaves behind me and turned to come face to face with a tall and slight muscular, pale blonde hair guy. I instantly took a few steps back and knew it was Aiden. Thought I smelt a human. He grinned but had a confused expression, though I do believe I smelt a male or two. Seems like I need to get my snout checked up. Why, you're E-Alpha Aiden," I squeaked out in fright. He smirked at my behavior and stepped closer as I stepped further away. "And you're either Luna. Emery, am I right? Then S-mate. The human." "I am, but what are you doing here?" He touched his heart in mock hurt. "I'm offended. I thought I was invited to the little soiree." I was taken aback and quickly tried to take back any offense before he got angry. "I didn't mean to offend you. I was just wondering what you were doing in this part of the woods instead of showing up to where the party sat. I could ask you the same thing." He mused. "I thought I heard a child crying, but it stopped." I explained. "I did to but whoever it was. They were hiding. And you couldn't find them?" I asked in confusion. My senses are a bit distracted right now. It must be been a wolf with his child. To be honest, I don't really care. Did you catch a scent? "Nope," he said, moving past me and going in the opposite direction. "If you want to get back to your mate, I suggest following me before a rogue eats you alive." I shivered at the disturbing image he put in my head but followed him anyway since I didn't know which other way to go. How did you not get a scent? He turned to look at me with a weary expression. Let's just say another scent was distracting my wolf and preventing me from smelling anything else. Then how did you smell me? I practically ran to keep up with his pace. Well, for one, a human scent is very distinctive from a wolf, and two, your E standing close to me so I could smell you beside getting the whiff of the most intoxicating scent I have ever smelt. Would you slow down? I asked, almost of breath. I'm a werewolf. This is practically taking baby steps from me. He chuckled but slowed his pace slightly. I have no idea how your mate handles being with a human. I thought you wanted a human mate. I threw into the wind because I might as well since I could be walking to my death anyways. He turned to me since I was able to walk at his side. How wrong I was. Your ear realize you know that. I covered my mouth instantly at my blatant response and hoped he didn't get angry. Please don't kill me, I squeaked. He just shrugged and smiled. I wouldn't. Yet, but keep annoying me and I just might. Taking that as a good sign, I went on. I thought you wanted me as your mate since I'm the only Luna unmated. You're a real blunt one, aren't you? He rhetorically asked but answered anyways. That was the plan, but I had an unexpected business meeting that took some time and just before you showed up in woods. My wolf lost its shit. What do you mean? I wrinkled my eyebrows in confusion. Do you not listen, Luna? I smelt something intoxicating, which means my mate is here. He spelled it out for me. My eyes went wide and I almost did a happy dance since it meant he most likely didn't want to kidnap me from Thane. I did, however, let out a loud squeal which caused him to give me a dirty look. You found your mate? Oh my god, yay. If it was for wanting to meet my mate, I would have killed you by now, but I don't want Thane to kill me yet. He grumbled. I rolled my eyes because I somehow knew he was bluffing. There were only about 3 girls left unmated, so I'm sure it's one of them. I mumbled but then realized Tate was one of them, but she was only 16. Well, almost 17. It may be one of the other girls since they were closer to a den's age. Well, it's one of them, I guess. You don't seem too happy about finding your mate, I pointed out. He rubbed both his palms down his face and looked stressed. I don't know what to do. What do you even mean? I asked, baffled. He looked hesitant about telling me what's up with him, but I tried to coax him into it. Come on, dude. We're practically best friends now, and there's no one around. You can tell me, I said, waving my hand around as comically. I would put the word friend very lightly when describing this situation. Oh, come on, you big baby. Just tell me. I groaned. Who knew a wolf with a bad reputation could be this shy about finding his mate? I mean, I thought you were the big, bad wolf. Guess everyone was wrong. He growled at me, but it was empty threat as he went on. I've never been with anyone. You mean like a girlfriend? Yeah. I've never done the whole commitment thing. I rolled my eyes at this. Some guys are such idiots. I can't even with you all. I thought you were going to help. He asked expectantly. Okay. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nogan. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing Kishut's enthusiasm. I said, kinking. First of all, you don't need any prior relationship experience for this because your mate is entirely different. How would you know? You're a human after all. Shut up. I'm the one with the mate, so therefore I'm more knowledgeable here. He just grumbled but allowed me to continue. Okay, so you will learn what to do when you're with her by just getting to know her. You wouldn't think about anyone else because she will be the only thing in your mind. Like Thane is for me. But it will be 10 times more since from me being human. I haven't gotten the full-blown feels of it. But how do I know if she'll want me back? He asked, almost vulnerable. I finally saw through his hard exterior. You don't even have to think about that. She's your mate. Once she sees you, and you see her, well, it would be magic. You two wouldn't want anything else but to be together. Is that how it was for you and Thane? A smile graced my lips as I recalled our week of my dislike towards him. It was a bit different given our special circumstances, but deep down I felt it. I knew in my heart that he was it for me, but my head kept being rational and shouting at me to get away from him since he didn't explain the whole werewolf thing until after. He went silent for a little while and I turned to look at him to see if he was all right. What if she rejects me? The word reject also caused me to feel his pain because from what Thane described, it was painful and I knew no one could survive that pain without going mad. She wouldn't. I simply said. Anyone would be a fool to reject their mate, and I know for a fact that every girl unmated today in that clearing is happily waiting to find someone, as I'm sure you're eager to meet your mate. But last year I never met anyone at the meeting. She must have just turned 16 or 17 since this event is taking place later in the year than it was last year. He explained. How old are you? 21, he said sadly. It's just a few years difference. It wouldn't matter to her. But what if she thinks him too old? He asked worriedly. She wouldn't, I assured him, but she might not even be an adult yet. He explains. Wouldn't that be weird? I'm sure it may be different in the wolf world, but you can wait for her to be an official adult. With her sent alone, I'm afraid that's impossible. I just chuckled as we kept walking with the sun completely disappearing from the sky and the moon shining above us. It was completely dark in the woods, so I grabbed onto Aiden's arm as he led us both out of the dense forest. In the matter of seconds, we were suddenly walking through the garden of the backyard of the pack house. I let go and walked straight towards the door with Aiden following closely behind, but before I could open the door, it slammed open to reveal Lucas, who looked angry when he spotted Aiden and I. I knew from Lucas' expression that he was mind-linking Thane, who must have been really angry at me. Without another question, Lucas grabbed my arm and pulled me behind him and headed directly for Aiden. You'll be careful of what I do, Beta. I could take you out like a light, Aiden calmly said. I would like to see you try with my entire pack behind me. Lucas threatened. You better watch your mouth, young one, because now definitely isn't the time to mess with me. Aiden glared at Lucas. I ignored Lucas's protest and stepped between them both. Would you two calm down? I demanded. Luna, I need you to back away, but before Lucas could intervene a loud growl came behind him and Thane appeared in his wolf form. Blood-red eyes and pitch-black fur, which looked like he was about to kill. He slowly strutted around Lucas and kept a good distance away from me and started to approach Aiden, but I quickly walked in front of the S-Wolf to prevent him from hurting Aiden. I knew Thane could take him, but now that I knew Aiden had a mate of his own, the least I could do is prevent war between both our packs. Thane, stop. I held my hands out to touch his snout, but he quickly raised above me to his full height in a menacing posture. Emery, then want you to back off and stand behind him. Lucas communicated to me. I shook my head and kept my stance. No. He might hurt you, Emery. He isn't thinking clearly in his wolf form. Lucas urged. I straightened my back and reached up to touch Thane's snout. You wouldn't hurt me. Thane tried to back away from me, but I kept following him. You wouldn't hurt me. I know you wouldn't. With that he bent his head slightly enough for me to touch his head, but kept his eyes focused on Aiden. You wouldn't hurt me either, Thane. Thane bared his canines and emitted a deep growl. Oh, calm down, Alpha. I don't want you, girl. Aiden rolled his eyes. Thane looked like he about to leap around me and attack the blonde-hair guy, but I kept my hands on him. She's telling the truth, Thane. He doesn't want me. He has a mate. And Chess here, so just calm down and shift so we can greet our guest properly. Thane shifted his eyes between Aiden and myself, and without warning he shifted back into his human form in all his naked glory. He placed his hand at the side of my neck where his mark will go to ensure that I was marked by Aiden. I instantly felt my cheeks burn red in a blush and kept eyes away from traveling south. Lucas threw a pair of shorts at Thane and he gave me a wink before slipping them on. Glad you can find some amusement in all of this. I grumbled at him, but he just pulled me into him and crushed his lips to my own in a fierce and passionate kiss. It took my breath away as we molded our mouth to each other's and forgot about the situation at hand. With the clearing of a throat, I came to my senses that we in front of Lucas and Aiden and pulled away all flustered. By Thane's smirk I knew he did it to show a sign of possession, so I subtly jabbed my elbow into his side, but he just threw his arm around my waist and pulled me flush to his side. Some kind of welcoming this is. I heard Aiden mutter from across us. "Welcome, Alpha Aiden, to the Blood Moon Pack. I take it that you've already met my mate Emery." Thane greeted without an ounce of welcoming in his tone. "Also saved her from getting lost in the forest." Thane looked over at me with a confused expression. I thought I heard something. I shrugged in explanation. "We'll discuss you running off into the forest later." He mumbled, and I knew he was still angry about me going off to my own without him or anyone else with me. "Well, if your lover's dispute is over, how about we find my mate?" Aiden clapped his hands together. "Mate?" Thane asked in confusion. Just as I was about to explain Aiden catching the scent of his mate, someone exited the pack house behind us, and I heard an audible gasp and Den spies locked on to whoever it was. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I barely heard Aiden whisper. Thane and I turned around and was baffled at who stood standing in a complete daze at the sight of her mate. It was none other than Tate. A huge grin spread on my face because I knew that Tate and Aiden must have been on cloud nine at that moment. Thane, on the other hand, didn't look so pleased as he intervened between the pairing before they could even greet each other. "You're e-mates with my little sister," Thane said in an accusatory voice that Aiden, who was pulled out of his trance by the hostility. "She's my mate. What do you expect me to do?" Aiden pointed out the obvious as he approached Tate, but Thane stepped in and shoved Aiden, who looked pissed. Thane let them be. "They're mate." I tried to reason with him. "I don't care, HE's too old for her. It's Wolf World, Thane. I don't think it matters considering the moon goddess speared them together. But HE's a killer. I would never allow Tate to go with him. My pack affairs doesn't concern you, and neither does Tate now." Aiden growled out. "Thane, he would let hurt her. Trust me, if he wanted to kill anyone, he would have killed me in the forest. Plus Tate's his mate. Just as in yours, and you would never hurt me." I pleaded with him. He stared at with conflict brewing in his eyes, and I saw him look at Lucas something before taking off towards the woods where I just came from. He ran in as soon as he entered the dense greenery. He shifted into his wolf, tearing his pants in the process. I glared at Lucas. "Where did he go?" Lucas gave me a sympathetic look and muttered, "He know HE is wrong and he doesn't want you going after him." He gave me a pointed look because that was exactly what I would have done. He just needs a little time alone, considering he almost thought he lost you, and now his sister's mated to the alpha he despises. He looked over at Aiden. "No offense. None taken," was Aiden's response as he walked up to Tate and pulled her into his arms, and she looked like she was about to turn into jelly in his arms. "Come on, let's go inside," Lucas said, placing his hand on my shoulder as I gazed back into the forest and prayed that Thane was all right. "He'll be all right," was Lucas's only comforting word as he led me back inside the pack house and left Tate and Aiden alone. "Thank you," Tate said to me before I left them be. I knew she was thanking me because they might be murdered Aiden had I not intervened. Inside the pack house was chaotic to say the least. With the large number of guests that we had to prepare meals for everyone and give everyone their own guest room for the night. Thank goodness the pack house was extremely large. After dinner and ensuring that everyone was well taken care of, I took a seat near the fireplace on the large sofa in the main living room area on the first floor. It's been about 3 hours since Thane left and he hadn't returned yet. I could practically feel the tension in the pack house when everyone learnt that Tate and Aiden were mates. No one said a word about it, but I knew everyone was worried for Tate because of Aiden's reputation, but he was like how I met him today in the forest, and the only about him was his attitude. He never tried to harm me, and he even helped me back to the pack house. It was just like when I met Thane and found out he was the beast and thought he would kill me. But he didn't. Being mates is something sacred that makes you fall head over heels in love with the person you're matched with. "Hey, you okay?" Bailey appeared through the living room archway with Lucas in tow. "I'm okay. Just worried about Thane," I tried to assure them. "At GS and Alpha Emery. He can take care of himself," Lucas said. "Can you try to contact him?" I pointed at my head so they would get what I mean. After they both glanced at each other and gave me a worried expression, I became anxious and sat up in my seat. "What's wrong? Is Thane all right?" I asked, hurriedly. They both sat down next to me and Bailey said. Aegeus blocked out the pack from his thoughts. We can't mind Lincoln and Aegeus off pack territory. I had no idea what to say except just nod my head. After Bailey and Lucas tried to assure me once more, they both left and turned in for the night. I had a bad feeling deep within me. I knew something was wrong with Thane out running wild. My imagination cowled and helped but think of the worst. I snuggled into the couch and sat restless as I waited for him to return with a heavy feeling in my chest. I had no idea what time it was, but it was still dark out when I awoke to the sound of the front door opening and heavy footsteps entering the house. Someone stepped into the living room and the only source of light was the fireplace, but as the light reached the figure I instantly knew it was Thane. I flew out of my spot on the couch and into his arms, but I heard him whimper in pain as I wrapped my arms around him. I instantly stepped back and saw him covered in dirt and blood. Thane. What be? I tried to ask, but he just placed his hand on my mouth. I'm fine. Just get me upstairs, will you? He limped away and towards the steps, but I tried to turn him around. No, you need to go into the infirmary. I tried to pull him to get him help. There's other alphas here, Emery. I can't show weakness. He tried to explain and cut me off as I opened my mouth to argue. Please just help me up the stairs. Even though I knew I had to help him. I knew he didn't want to go into the infirmary and have someone find him lying there weak. I placed his arm around my neck and held his body with one of my arm around his waist and helped him up the stairs. By the time we made it to our floor, Thane collapsed on the ground and looked immensely pale. With the better source of light in, I saw blood soaking the shirt he had on. When did he have time to get dressed after getting damaged was beyond me. I lifted his shirt and saw a bit mark on the left side of his abdomen which looked a lot worse than it actually was. The bite itself was deep, but looked to be getting infected and preventing his healing from kickstarting. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Logan. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Was the only word he managed to get out as an explanation. I could kill you myself for going out on your own. I yelled at him in frustration before getting off the floor and locating the first aid box that had antiseptic to clean his wound. I got back to his side and splashed some of the antiseptic to clean his wound before I helped heal him. Fuck, that burns. He howled out. Well, no one told you to go gallivanting out of the pack territory when you know you have a mate waiting for you. I said angrily and worriedly. I'm sorry, Emery. He said, looking me in the eye. I ignored his pleading look and took some cotton to wipe off as much blood as possible and clean up the wound. It was still bleeding pretty badly when I placed both my hands on his stomach to heal him. Don't. He pushed my hands away from his body. Thane, you need help to heal. Let me. I demanded and tired to put my hands on him again. You'll use your energy, Emery. Just leave me. I'll heal with my wolfy powers, as you like to call it. It's infected, Thane. It doesn't look like it's getting any better. You're so stubborn. Just listen to me for once and let me help you. I said in exasperation until he finally allowed me to put my hands on him. I closed my eyes and focused my energy on him and healing the cut. Within no time the bite mark was slowly closing up and the bleeding stopped. Before it could fully heal, however, Thane pulled my hands away and broke my concentration. Stop, Emery. I'm healed enough. He whispered to me but remained lying on the floor with me knelt beside him. You'll drain yourself out if you continue to help me. I looked at him as if he grew to heads. You're my mate, Thane. I will heal you if I want. Plus I have these abilities for a reason. But I'm supposed to keep you safe. And are you Thane? Just because I can't physically fight off someone for you doesn't mean I can't help you. I cut him. I know, but I shouldn't have ran off on you like that. Thane apologized. I brushed some dirt off his cheeks and asked, why did you run off? Especially outside of the pack. I got some gauze out of the first aid kit to wrap around his wound until he heals fully within a few hours or so. I was angry at my sister. At Eden. At you and myself, I guess. I glared at him. I don't know why you're angry at the rest of us, Thane. Well, for one, I told you not to go out on your own. But, as usual, you didn't listen to me. I accidentally pressed on his wound and he hissed out in pain. Shit. You don't have to kill me for being worried about you. I rolled my eyes at his overdramatic response. I didn't ask anyone to go with me because everyone was busy. "I'm never busy for you, sweetheart." He managed to smile at me. I finished patching him up and placed a kiss on his bandaged abdomen before he attempted to sit up while wincing in pain. "I only left to go find your sister, but I heard a strange noise from the forest." Thane glanced at me with extreme curiosity. "What?" It sounded like a child crying. Even Aden heard it, but I lost the noise and he got caught up with his mate's scent. His eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "That's strange because I didn't come across any other scent out in the forest." Then something crossed his mind. "Well, it was mostly because I found a dead wolf's body right outside our territory that was emitting a horrid smell that I'm sure was potent enough to cover any other scent. But I assume it was the rogues I later met that killed him." "Was the wolf from our pack?" I asked in horror. Thane grabbed my hands in comfort. "No, it was just a random rogue." "What about the rogues that attacked you?" "What happened? I was running not too far from the body when I ran into 3 of them. They knew I was an alpha, so they didn't hesitate to attack me because I was all alone. It got nasty pretty fast, but I took down 2 and had 1 left. Except he had some sort of substance on his canines. When he bit me on my side, it felt as if a silver bullet pierced right through me. That's what gave me an infection." I gasped in horror at what Thane described and shifted closer to his left side and wrapped my arms around his torso without hurting him. He continued on after wrapping his arm around me. "I found out that it was what us wolves call the silver berry. Very rare and not poisonous, but when applied to an open wound it prevents us from healing and causes immense pain. But I managed to take him out and crawl back to the pack without anyone finding me. I shifted right outside the backyard and changed so that no one would see the bite mark." "Thane, you could have gotten yourself killed." I scolded him and hugged him tighter. "I know, sweetheart, and I'm sorry for worrying you. I knew if Aden stood in front of me any longer I would have killed him. I promised you that I would never run away from you again." I looked up into his eyes. "I want you to promise me the same thing. If you're angry, you wouldn't leave the pack's land without a few other wolves." He gazed down at me and saw that I was serious. "Good. Now about your sister. You can't be angry at her or Aden, because it's not their fault. They didn't choose each other just to piss you off." I explained to him. "I know. I really owe them an apology, but when I saw you with him I got so angry that I was thinking clearly. His reputation doesn't precede him. He wouldn't hurt her. I know that, and you do as well. Even helped me back here when his mate was waiting for him. And she is a real softie on the inside. Just like you." I winked at him. He laughed. "In only soft for you. Shortened to be the opposite of that." I smirked at my innuendo. "In both." He teased but went serious in an instant. "He'll apologize to them both in the morning." I smiled at him and placed a quick kiss on his lips. "Don't ever run from me again. Never." Chapter 25, Unexpected Guess. It was officially 2 days before the wedding. All the alphas left yesterday. Except for Aden and Tate, of course. After a tense consultation between Thane and him, they came to the conclusion that Tate had to go with Aden for every owner's safety. It's physically impossible for wolves to leave each other after they find their mates, and for another reason. Aden has built himself a long list of enemies and everyone knows he has a mate. So it was only a matter of time before someone tried to get Tate to harm and weaken Aden. Even though age doesn't really matter once you're E16 in the wolf world. Thane thought Tate was way too young to be moving with Aden, but he knew he couldn't stop them. Plus Tate was turning 17 on the day of our wedding, so after a long battle with himself, he allowed Tate to go with Aden once the wedding was over since she wanted to be here for the both of us. Thane, however, still cowled and helped but growl at Aden every time he saw him, which was quite amusing. I'm just thankful we aren't in any miscalculated danger anymore. I was currently sitting in the patio of our bedroom in the pack house since Thane was busy doing alpha duties, and almost everyone else was busy decorating the clearing near the pack house. The flowers and cake were already decided on, and I was instructed to relax and not move a finger as everyone else was setting everything up for the wedding. Relaxing definitely was something I could do as I sat in the balcony area and contemplated my life and how I got to this moment. Marriage definitely was something I thought I would have been doing at 19 years old. Nor was having a kid. Most importantly, I cowled and even imagined werewolves being real. Yet here I am, about to marry one, about to marry my mate, about to marry the love of my life. I gasped aloud at that thought. Love. I knew deep down that I loved Thane, but it wasn't until this moment that I admitted it to myself. I'd have yet to tell him, and every day I could see in his eyes that he was anxiously waiting to tell me he loved me again, but he thought I wasn't ready to hear it just yet. I could tell he was also worried that I didn't feel the same way, but that was impossible for me. It was just the mating bond. It was Thane that had me falling. I was about to go into the infirmary. Even though I knew it didn't have anyone who needed healing, but I was bored out of my mind. But what I saw at the edge of the forest in the backyard made me do a double take. It couldn't have been. It was impossible. I leaned over the railing and tried to ensure that was real. But when it didn't disappear, I knew it was no hallucination. I don't know what compelled me to do what I did next, but I immediately ran down all flights of stairs and went straight to the backyard. I stood right outside the back door of the house and faced the woods. I stared straight ahead into the forest, but I couldn't believe my eyes. I slowly approached the figure, and as I got close, he turned and walked a little further into the forest, so I jogged to keep up with him. We were just concealed from the house by the forest, so that no one could see us out here. The person turned around and we were within arm's reach of each other. I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I didn't know how to feel. Sad, relieved. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Anxious or worried. Maybe the last feelings were the most prominent. I didn't know why he was here or how, but I felt a bit of relief to see someone from my past. Jake, I managed to whisper. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nolben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. He smiled at me heavily and without warning pulled me into his arms. I stood as stiff as a board, not knowing what to do or expect because his appearance shook the living daylights out of me. He pulled away from me but kept his hands on my arms as he smiled down at me. I knew I would find you. My eyes frantically searched the woods behind him in case he brought back up with him, which in this case would be the hunters. Don't worry. There's no one with me. How did you find me? I asked cautiously. And here I was thinking you missed me. He chuckled without humor. Jake, we broke up. Yes, I remember very clearly. Just as I remembered you running into the beast's arms. I don't know what you're talking about. I played it off. He rolled his eyes at me. Don't play innocent with me, pumpkin. I know all about your little animal and his pack. I shook my head and tried to throw him off. You don't know what you're talking about. I woke up in the forest. Lost and confused, and ended up in this town, but I haven't been able to get through the forest. You're lying to me, pumpkin. He gave my arms a little squeeze in warning. I don't appreciate liars. How do you find me? I repeated. Come on. You really think after years of searching I wouldn't find this place? He asked in a mocking tone. How do you get in? I knew something was wrong because there were guards on patrol 24/7. Oh, you mean how I got past the mutts? He showed me a gun strapped onto his leg that I missed before and felt my heart in my stomach at the sight of it. Don't worry, Henry. It's just a tranquilizer. You're not that careless. I released a breath in relief but knew he was up to something. Why didn't you shoot them? Because then I'm sure someone would have realized that they're dead by now through some of magic I'm sure exists. How do you know so much? He just shrugged and said, a good friend. What friend? I clenched my teeth in anger, but he just shrugged off the question. What do you want? I spit out at him. He smirked at that. Oh, the golden question. Well, now you see, that's where you come in. I wouldn't help you, Jake. I'll tell them all that you were here. I threatened. He applied pressure to my arms. You wouldn't dare. I would have made you kill you in the blink of an eye. They'll kill you before they get me Emery, and if you're dead, and your little mate's dead. I gasped in horror because he was practically right. Then S-Wolf would grieve my death to the point that he would be weak and the pack would suffer. Just listen to what I say and no one will get hurt. He tried to reason. I didn't answer him and he squeezed my arms hard until I whimpered in pain. You're hurting me. You'll heal, wouldn't you? he said, and I gasped in horror because I had no idea how he knew that. Who told you? It doesn't matter. Now back to what I want. I don't care about what you want. They'll kill you before I can even deliver. He smirked without a care in the world. They may be stronger and faster, but my silver bullets are faster, Emery. One shot and they'll be dead. I felt chills of pure terror run through me at his words. Well, there's nothing here that you can want. A wolf? I don't know what you're. Yes, you do, Emery. I know what they are. Your little mate. All the creatures that live here. I know what they fucking are. Werewolves, he said in anger. If you know what they are, then why do you want one? I glared at him. Because no one's going to believe me if I just ran to town and cried wolf. Heck, the only reason I believe they exist is because I saw a few myself a few days ago. Where I was trying to get to you. Then it all clicked. You were the one in the forest, weren't you? You killed that rogue. You were luring me out. He just smiled at me. Lovely to see you haven't gotten that stupid since joining the wolf gang. Whose child did you have with you? I asked because it was a child's crying that heard. No one's. He rolled his eyes. I played it through a speaker. Then how did you kill that wolf? I asked because there was no possible way he could have taken a rogue alone. I didn't even do it. He grinned. But did make things quite easier. Now all you have to do is hand over a wolf to me and I will leave you all in peace. I still have to gather an army to take down your dogs. Watch your mouth. I almost growled at him. He looked at me in amusement. Look at you getting all feisty. They seem to be rubbing off on you. You're stupid to think I can get you a wolf. How would I even deliver? I asked just to kill time until someone hopefully comes looking for me. He released one of my arm and placed a small syringe in my palm with a clear liquid. It's a dose of tranquilizer but tailored precisely to knock out a wolf for at least a few hours. You slip this to one of your buddies and bring their body right in this spot and I will deal with it from there. I looked at him like he grew to heads. Why in the world would you actually believe I would do what you say, let alone sacrifice one of my own pack member to you? Because if you don't, I will get my best sniper and take your mate out. I felt my heart stop and my stomach plummet, as he said, and he just gave me a smile at seeing my reaction. After I kill him, I will let every hunter out here and create a war that will destroy all the beasts. But that would happen one way or another when you drag a wolf to town. He nodded his head. I agree. Which is why if you help me, I would warn you before we attack. I would only allow you and your mate to remain alive, but I'm afraid the rest of them will die. He said with fake sympathy. I wouldn't leave everyone here to die. I yelled at him. And then what are we going to stop them? He asked in a condescending voice. Failed I either way, doll, but at least they would have a warning first. You're a coward and you're going to die. I hissed at him. He squeezed my arm so tight I was sure it would bruise. Shut your mouth. If you don't deliver, then my first bullet will be in your mate's head. He threatened. There was a war battling in my head, but I could never consider what HES asking, but he can't know that. I will have a wolf here in 3 days' time. The day after the wedding. I can trick him into coming here, and since I would be mated to Thane, I could easily mind link him before this idiot before me could do anything. Seemed simple enough. If you don't, I will. I cut him off and shoved as much sincerity into my voice as I could muster. Great. And if you don't, then tell your dog I will be coming for him. He grinned as he released my arms. One more thing before I go though, just to ensure my sources are telling the truth. He pulled out a switchblade from his pocket, and before I could comprehend what he was about to do, he grabbed my left hand, which didn't contain the syringe, and quickly sliced a line on my palm enough to draw blood. What the fuck, Jake? I whispered, yelled at him as my palm felt an unbearable pain shoot across my arm. I wrapped my palm into my shirt and cradled it for a few seconds until he yanked my hand back into his view. At the sight of my healing hand, his eyes bugged out of his head in pure disbelief. She was right, he barely said above a whisper. The cut already stopped bleeding and was already closing up right before our eyes, and my enemy officially knew what my power was. With one last grin, Jake said, "See you in 3 days, pumpkin." He called me that god-awful endearment again, as if we were best buddies. He left with that as he rushed through the trees, deeper into the forest. I stood there in absolute terror and bewilderment at what was to come and what I was going to do.